What's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a decade in review where we look back at the last 10 years of my life. This is going to be really cool because you guys only know me the last 3 years of my life that are on YouTube, but there are 7 years in this last decade before I uploaded my first YouTube video. So let's rewind the clocks back to 10 years ago to when I was just a regular kid, and let's follow my journey to where I am now, a YouTuber with over 6 million subscribers. Whoa, guys, hang on a second. I think we went back a little bit too far. The year is 2000. We've been back 2 decades. If you guys want to see a full life video just like this one, let me know in the comments below. But let's move the clock back to 2010 at the start of this decade. This is where my decade begins. The year is 2010. I live in Northern Virginia and I am enjoying the last few days of my summer vacation. I'm a young kid that loves to do stuff outside, especially riding dirt bikes and ATVs. That was one of my favorite things to do outside of school. I loved everything about riding. I loved riding in the dirt and getting muddy. I loved building ramps. I loved hanging out with friends. It was my favorite thing to do. But of course, with a hobby like motocross, it isn't always the safest, and something crazy happened to me. 2 days before my first day of high school, I had a terrible crash where I went over my handlebars off a massive jump and I broke my arm in a few places, I broke my back, and I became all banged up. This was such a huge shift in my life, and it really changed my perspective on how I saw the world. As crazy as this was for me, I wasn't gonna let it stop me. I was still very positive and happy, and freshman homecoming was right around the corner, so I needed to find a date. Even though I had a broken arm in a cast and a suit that didn't fit, I was still able to find a date last minute for homecoming, and she was an entire year older than me. Believe it or not, guys, the couple of people standing next to me is actually Hunter and Camden. You guys know them from the video. Here they're super young and you probably don't even recognize them. Over the next few years of high school, it was a lot of fun. I really loved hanging out with friends, hanging out with my family, doing outdoor summer activities, and just trying to have the most fun that I can possibly have. A big part of my high school career were my friends. I owe them everything. My friends were my life. I spent so much time hanging out with my friends, and it was like my favorite thing to do. And with this, I developed such strong relationships with so many people that I'm still best friends with today. My family and I would spend our summers at the Jersey Shore, hanging out at the beach, playing in the sand, wakeboarding, and tubing. Another huge part of me growing up was swimming. I started swimming at the age of 6 and swam every single year of my life from then on. And swimming throughout high school was no different. I swam on a couple different teams at the same time, and I would be swimming up to 7, 8, or even 9 times per week. It was absolutely insane. As hard as it was, we also made sure we had a lot of fun during swim team as well. And every summer we did a belly flop competition, and this year I was super focused on winning, so I came up with this crazy idea of doing the flip flop. Check this out. Oh my gosh, guys, that looked like it hurt, and it did. Look at my chest. It is all red, but it was totally worth it because I took home first place in this belly flop competition. Swimming was such a fun sport for me. It was a way for me to be competitive and to train hard and to focus on something, but also to have a support structure, and it was a way that I met so many of my best friends. And through swimming in high school, I met my friend Phil. You guys know Phil because he lives here at the house and he's on Team RAR. From the first day that we met, we hit it off really well and we became best friends, and we hung out all the time, like every day, every weekend, and we did a whole lot of stuff together. So much of my life growing up was surrounded by water, either through swim team or hanging out at the beach or going swimming in lakes and going wakeboarding and stuff like that. And so with my parents having a pond in their backyard, it was only natural for us to spend some time down there. But the pond was pretty gross. I mean, it was overgrown with weeds, it was full of sticks, it was pretty disgusting. Guys, check out this rare footage of me from 2009. That is me in the red shorts, and that's Hunter in the burgundy shorts, and he's about to hop on the zip line and ride down into the pond. So freshman year in high school, my dad and I came up with the project of renovating the pond to make it a better place for us to hang out in the summers. But in order to do this huge project, I had to teach myself how to drive heavy machinery and bobcats. And of course, with my best friend Phil around, we had to have some fun with the heavy machinery. So here's Phil after I taught him how to drive this, and he is throwing me into the pond. And on this one, I actually was able to do a backflip. I literally spent the entire summer of my freshman year working on this pond project, but I knew it was gonna be worth it. In this photo, Phil and I were actually racing the jet ski with the ATVs. The ATV was driving on land, the jet ski was in the water, and we're racing side by side. And looking at some of these pictures, it literally looked like we had a water park in our backyard. So the year is 2011, I'm in my junior year of high school, and I created my first website. It was called cartershare.com, and I posted a lot of fun videos and pictures of just the fun stuff that I would do with my friends on the weekends and during summer vacations. And some of the crazier stuff that I posted on that website was definitely Phil's influence. Remember how I mentioned that Phil had a big influence on me? Well, let me show you exactly what I mean. You guys see that way up in the air? That's 400 feet in the air. That's a frying pan. That stuff was super crazy. It was definitely a lot of fun, but also it was pretty dangerous. Looking back, I'm just glad that we all did it pretty safely. Oh my gosh. The other stuff that I posted on cartershare.com was my inventions and building projects, and I loved to build. I got a welder for my 12th birthday, and I taught myself how to weld, and ever since then, I would be building stuff all the time. I loved it. Wakeboarding with the family during summer vacations was fun, but I wanted to take it to the next level, so I tried to make a flying wakeboard, which I did. It actually worked. It took me a few years to actually make this thing, but when it worked, it was insane. Check this thing out. Here I am, 2 years of work and finally testing it for the very first time. It looks just like a regular wakeboard, but as you ride and you get just enough speed and you get just the right body position, something magical happens. It actually lifts out of the water and starts to fly. It's so crazy, and it has a hydrofoil underneath. I honestly couldn't believe it worked. And when I was riding it, it was just the most amazing feeling of 2 years of hard work finally coming together and being worth it for this couple of seconds. And now guys, I wanna show you some of my craziest projects that I did back in high school. Here is one of my early projects where I just welded a bunch of bike parts together and I made a bike taller than a car. I developed a fascination with legged locomotion. That's basically legged robots. And I had no experience with electronics or anything, so they were purely mechanical. This one here is the first one that I built, and it had 12 legs, 0 wheels, and you could ride it around like a wheelchair. It had hundreds of moving parts, and I spent so much time making this. It was unbelievable when it was finally all said and done and it came together. And you can see how young I am. I'm just in my parents' garage working on the weekends on this with like a shoestring budget, and being able to pull this off was definitely a huge accomplishment for me. And when that project was complete, of course I wasn't done. I was obsessed with building and designing these things, so I moved on to my next project. I started the scale prototype, and the idea was to make it look like human legs. And this is actually the first ever YouTube video I uploaded, but I wouldn't consider myself a YouTuber. I was just posting it just so I could share it with my friends. And from the small scale design, I moved on to the full scale project. In this video, you can see just how complicated these projects are getting. Guys, I loved building stuff, and you're probably thinking I'm such a nerd. Well, I am. I absolutely love this stuff. And here it is in its finished form, walking across the driveway, fully painted with shoes on. And of course, you guys probably know by now, this wasn't enough for me either. This was just a small stepping stone for another bigger project. And this next project is the biggest project that I did back in high school. I did this during my senior year, and it was taking the same design as the last one, modifying it a little bit to look more like horse legs, to build a full-size mechanical metal horse that you could ride like a bicycle. I spent endless amounts of time on this, guys. Like I said, I am obsessed with building stuff. I think it's so cool. It was so much fun. And the best part of these projects was to build something that's never been done before. This project would be the biggest project in my life. It would be so large, I would not be able to do this one alone. So, of course, I recruited my friends to help me out, and we worked very hard together to make this thing work. We started with a big pile of scrap metal and slowly started cutting, drilling, and welding this thing together piece by piece, and there were hundreds and hundreds of pieces to make this thing work. After days and weeks and months of hard work, pieces started finally coming together, and we had our first assembled mechanical horse. And this video is literally the first ever steps of this horse when we were testing it out. And here in this video, you can see my friend Matt walking ahead and me and Camden riding these horses, pedaling it just like a bicycle, and the horse feet were stomping along and the crowd was going wild. This was such an amazing experience. All of these projects were built for a different reason or for a different engineering competition, my favorite of which was called Odyssey of the Mind. It was a worldwide competition where lots of many different countries would come to compete, and we would work our way all the way up to the world finals every year. But it wasn't until this last project where we entered it and we won the world's finals, and I honestly couldn't believe we made it that far. It was probably my single biggest accomplishment in my high school career. And here's some behind the scenes footage, which I actually never saw myself until now, of me holding the trophy up on stage with my dad and the rest of my team nearby. Looking back at all the hard work that got me to this point in life, this was definitely a very proud moment for me. The year is now 2012. I just entered my senior year in high school, and it's time to start talking about something a little bit more juicy, and that would be my first girlfriend. And like most of my friends, I met her through swim team. We hit it off really well and we started dating pretty fast. And guys, keep in mind, this is 5 years before I would meet Liz for the very first time. We dated throughout senior year, and that is when senior prom came around. And so I gathered my friends and I wanted to ask my girlfriend to prom in a very fun way. So we decided to write prom on our chest and surprise her like that. And of course, she said yes, so we went to senior prom together. Prom was a really good time, and you can even see Phil in some of these photos. And so now we're moving on to high school graduation, and I thought that this day would never come. I wanted to graduate from high school so bad. I was so ready to move on. I was so ready to go to college. High school graduation was a blast, especially because I graduated as valedictorian of my class. Well, I'm actually just kidding. What I did was I went on Amazon and I bought a gold robe and I wore it under my burgundy robe. And so when I went up to go graduate, I ripped off my burgundy robe, revealing this bright yellow gold robe, and it made it look like I was valedictorian. It really made me stand out. And I didn't end up getting in trouble for that at all. And the funniest part of this story is the next year when Phil graduated, I passed the robe to him and he did the exact same thing. It is still 2012. I graduated from high school. I got accepted to Carnegie Mellon University. My girlfriend broke up with me and I only have a few days left before it's time to go to college. I was super excited for college. I was literally counting down the days, but there was still one more thing I had to do. I made a promise to myself back in high school that I would learn to do a backflip with a BMX bike off the ramp into the pond in my backyard. And this was the last and final day that I could do that. So literally as the car is packed and loaded for college, I'm in the backyard practicing over and over again, trying to send a huge backflip off this giant jump into the pond. I had some of my friends there to support me, and I just kept trying over and over again until I landed it. It took me about 10 to 15 tries to land my first ever BMX backflip into the pond and accomplish this goal. And as soon as I was done, I had to run up to the house, dry off, get dressed, hop in the car, and go drive to college. It was like a crazy photo finish to accomplish this life goal of mine. So the year is now 2013, and I'm starting my freshman year at Carnegie Mellon University. And at this point in my life, it's still about 4 years before I ever upload my first real YouTube video. College was great and I learned a lot of new things. I initially started as a physics major, but quickly switched my studies over to computer science and robotics. This year, I would also join a fraternity where I'd meet a bunch of new people and make a lot more friends. This is also when I met Liz for the very first time. We met each other early freshman year because we were both on the Carnegie Mellon swim team. Shortly after we first met, we became really great friends and we would hang out all the time, and we had our own friend group, and me and her were always sort of the closest. We weren't dating or anything, but we were really good friends. It wasn't until sophomore year I finally decided to ask Liz to be my girlfriend, but I wanted to do it in a very special way, so I asked her on a date to Longhorn Steakhouse. I also got her a necklace and wrote her a card. At the end of dinner, I gave her the necklace and the card was talking about all the great times we were having together. At the very end, it asked if she wanted to be my girlfriend. She was super excited. Of course she said yes, and from then on, we were officially a boyfriend and girlfriend. Even back then, Liz had such a huge impact on my life and really made the college experience that much more fun. I initially entered Carnegie Mellon as a physics major, but I quickly switched my studies over to computer science and robotics. And of course, I got back into the projects and I did some crazy stuff. I made a robotic robotic arm that could draw pictures. I built this crazy hover chair that you could actually sit on and ride. And I even got back to the basics and built a fully robotic dog. And if I had to pick a single project that was the craziest, most technologically advanced project that I've ever built during my college career, it would have to be this one-legged bouncing, hopping robot. I programmed a physics simulation to model how it would interact with the real world, and then I would plug that algorithm and code into the real robot that we built, and it actually worked. It was pretty insane. So senior year comes around with college, everything wraps up, we finish with classes, and we finally graduate. This was another huge stepping stone for my life. To actually be done with school forever was something that I dreamed about ever since I was like a little kid. And was I excited to try out some crazy stuff. My first job right after graduation was going to Philadelphia to work at the University of Pennsylvania, where again, I would be using my degree from Carnegie Mellon to be doing robotics. I was actually working with Phil in the embedded systems laboratory, where we were programming self-driving cars and doing these self-balanced robots. It was really fun. At this point in my life, it is 2016, and I was living pretty close to home. Philadelphia and DC are pretty close. I'm able to travel home on the weekends. And this is where my brother and I would team up, and we would start looking into how YouTube actually works and how people actually have YouTube as a career. And remember that one goal that I had before I went to college where I needed to land a backflip into a pond? Well, I did that again after graduation, and that was our first ever viral video that launched my YouTube career. It's really crazy to look back at some of the goals throughout my life and to be able to apply them to YouTube, and that actually launched my career and changed my life forever. After seeing the success of that backflip video, I then thought I need to go back to all the crazy stuff I used to do back in high school with my friends and with Phil, and let's just repeat them and start making videos and posting them on YouTube like I could have been doing back in high school. Each video started gaining more and more traction, and after just a short few months of hard work, my brother and I thought it was a good idea to spend every single dollar we had to buy a Lamborghini. We literally had to wait for our next paycheck just to afford this thing, and it zeroed out our bank account. Looking back, this wasn't maybe the smartest thing we've ever done, but we didn't care. We were young, living in my parents' basement, driving a Lamborghini. Fast forward a year and a half to November of 2017, this is when I finally launched my channel, the Carter Share channel, and I posted my first ever video. Shortly after, we finally hit the first major milestone on YouTube. That's 100,000 subscribers, and we got our first YouTube play button. And a few months later, we hit the next milestone of 1 million subscribers. I could not believe how fast we were growing. One day, I got an email from YouTube asking if I wanted to be in YouTube Rewind 2017. I honestly couldn't believe that they were asking me, out of all creators on the platform, to be in this YouTube Rewind. It's so amazing. Of course I said yes, so we flew out to LA and we got dressed up as zombies, and we were literally in the YouTube Rewind. It was such a cool thing. I could not believe it in our first year of YouTube getting invited to something like this. From this point on, I'd finally move out of my parents' basement and get a place of my own. I got an apartment down the street, and I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with a lot of people. It was me, Liz, Stove, Ryan, Zach, Kelsey, and Hunter. We had two bedrooms, and we were all crammed into this place, but we made it work. It was so much fun. These apartments were our home and our studio for a few months before we made the huge leap all the way to come out to Los Angeles, California. And this is where things would really take off. We rented a huge house the first day I landed in Los Angeles, and honestly guys, the rest is history. You guys know this house is the Team Our House. I'm sitting in this house right now. We would go on to film the craziest videos and just try to outdo ourselves, one after another. We then launched other channels. Liz has her own channel, Ryan has his own channel, Stove has his own channel, Millie even has her own channel, and we're continuing to grow, just launching a Team RAR channel as well. I'm only a few years into my YouTube career, yet I've accomplished so much, but to me, it only feels like I'm just getting started. I have such big plans. We launched the Team RAR brand. We have all of these beautiful play buttons and channels to stand for, but I have huge plans for the future, and I really have you guys to thank for such a lifestyle like this. I've done such crazy things, such amazing things, and I honestly couldn't have done it without YouTube, and I couldn't have done it without you guys watching along, being the fans and supporting me. Seriously, it's been such an amazing life to be able to go out, do big things, and film it all and share it with such a strong fan base. This whole journey of YouTube has absolutely changed my life, and I really hope you enjoyed this video where I went in depth about the last decade. Guys, this next decade, I'm going to absolutely crush it. We're just barely getting started. Team RAR is going to be the next big thing. It's going to be huge. And now you guys know a little bit of the backstory of me before my YouTube days. If you guys want to see an entire life story, definitely comment down below and maybe I'll show you my entire life journey, not just the last 10 years. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. I owe it all to you. I would not be where I am today without each and every single one of you. If you guys haven't already, please hit subscribe, turn on post notifications so you do not miss my next videos. I'm gonna be working super hard over the next 10 years to make the best possible content for you guys. And we'll see you guys on the next vlog. Peace.
Jingle bells, food smells, Robin Lemonade, shot his butt to Pizza Hut in 1984.